I don't know where I should watch it. I guess here.
Yeah.
Can you kill the fan? One more time. Hello, YouTube land. Oh my God, it's so delayed.
It's super delayed.
That's okay. All right. Hello, YouTube. Today, we're going to be talking about what the health. Mm-hmm. I've seen all of your comments. I've seen all of your concerns. Everybody wants to know what the real deal is. So I thought to make today extra special, I brought in my really good friend, Ms. Bethany Watson.
Hello.
You may know her from Z100's Elvis Duran and The Morning Show crew.
Yes.
Or from her new series called Labeled,
Yes.
which you can find right here on YouTube. And we're going to get into all of that. But first, we have to tackle the topic of the moment.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm so excited because I have no idea what to think about this. And I know that a lot of you guys are in the same boat because What the Health is, I think, the biggest documentary that people are talking about right now. And some people, like I posted about it on Instagram, and some people said, I watched it, I've been vegan now for 2 months. Some people said, I watched it and I'm mad about it because it's all hype. And some people said, I have no idea what to think.
Okay, but better question. I asked you to watch it.
Yes.
When did you watch it?
When or last night?
That's
it's fresh in my mind.
You see, I always talk about not cramming, but Bethany clearly doesn't believe in that.
I'm a procrastinator, so like I work better under pressure.
All right, I'll give you the excuse. But look, the real deal needs to come out into the open, and we need to explain this in an easy to understand way without drama, without talking about animals dying, if we're just talking about the health aspect of it, right?
Yeah, it's a good point.
I'm the doctor guy. You're the average person that watches the documentary and tries to figure out what's what. So, in essence, Bethany here is representing you at home, okay?
I'm so sorry.
Big responsibility.
I know.
I know she has a stethoscope on.
I do. He gave this to me. I feel very official and I won't take it off.
That's okay. And we brought our banana phones to make ourselves extra vegan today. Cheers.
I have to take this really quickly.
Okay.
Please don't.
Hold on. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
All right. So, where do you want to start?
I want to start with...
First of all, I want to say thank you to all these people that are watching us. All of you at home. Hello. There's almost 1,000 of you. Really impressive. Thank you for coming out and watching us. I want to give a huge, huge round of applause to all those who are interested in health, because health is your life, right?
Yeah, no, completely. And from watching this even more so, it made me realize that even if a lot of it is hype, which we'll sort of parse apart, it reminds you that the food that you put into your body really does do something, and we cannot eat garbage the way that we think we can.
Yes.
You have to be really, really careful.
Do not eat garbage.
Do not eat garbage. Literal or
that's going to
figurative.
be the subtitle underneath the title list. Okay.
The big question I had, and the thing that I heard people continuing to bring up over and over, was the statistic that eating 1 egg is the equivalent of having 5 cigarettes.
Okay.
That, to me, was the stat that really stood out as feeling maybe not the most accurate, or like it was phrased in such a way that it was mostly hype.
Okay. So I think an important way to start talking about this documentary in a whole is to sort of tell me your whole opinion, and then we'll sort of dig into the specifics. Because if we start tackling one fact at a time, no one will really understand our stance or what our initial thoughts are. Okay. So tell me, you watched it. I'm sure eggs wasn't the only thing you took home from it. So like, what did you feel, as the average person? You eat meat, right?
I do.
Okay, so vegans, don't attack her yet. She may not know everything. So.
I may join your side, who knows?
Yes. So go ahead.
I left it feeling confused, but feeling more open to veganism than I had been before.
Okay.
I have vegans in my life, and it always seemed like a really difficult lifestyle.
Sounds like you own vegans.
I have. I don't own them.
I have vegans in my life.
No, many of my friends are vegans, and it always just seemed like a really difficult thing to do. I was once vegan for 2 hours until I got hungry and realized I had nothing to eat.
Okay.
But it also feels like a lifestyle that's becoming easier and easier because it's becoming more mainstream, and so it's easier to find the foods that you're looking for. But leaving the documentary, I felt empowered to become a vegan, but also confused if those feelings were misplaced. Okay. I felt like maybe I was going gung-ho into veganism with believing some hype that maybe wasn't true.
Okay.
What about, how did you feel about it when you watched it?
So I'm the doctor guy here, right?
Sorry.
I am watching it from the average person's mindset at the same time while trying to figure out what's going on with the statistics, what's the real deal, what are they showing, what are they not showing, how are they presenting it, because you can take statistics and present them in pretty much any way you want, because one study doesn't explain the whole story, right? You need a whole body of evidence. Just like if you walk into a murder scene and you find my footprint, it doesn't mean I did the murder. It means that maybe I was there the day before and visiting, right?
Sure.
So you need to take everything into consideration, all the evidence, right? So I watched What the Health. I actually watched it about 3 weeks ago probably, and I rewatched it this morning just to make sure it's fresh in my mind. And what I thought to myself was, it's a missed opportunity.
How so?
And that's, I think, the best way to put it. A lot of people in medicine and a lot of people that are into nutrition started saying really positive things about it or really negative things.
Yeah.
And I don't think the message is that simple, because when you do that, you're doing exactly what this documentary did. Oversimplifying such a complex topic that, as much as some of us claim to be experts in, and in fact this applies to most of us, including doctors, nutritionists, we don't know everything there is to know about nutrition. There's still a lot of things left to investigate, a lot of things left to figure out. What certain foods are actually bad for us and in what quantities. Because look, it's easy to prove that smoking is bad for you because we can just take smoking as one lifestyle factor and eliminate everything else and see how people do.
Sure.
But with food, it's not so simple. For example, they said, you used the wonderful example, are eggs as bad for you as smoking, right? When you try and figure out if a person just smokes, you could eliminate a lot of other things if they exercise, what diet they eat, this and that. But when you try and figure out and you try to quantify, is eating an egg bad for your health? It's tough to say, is just eating an egg bad for your health? Or is eating eggs and bacon bad for your health? Because most people eat eggs right with bacon.
Right.
So are you really finding out if eggs are bad for you? Or are you finding out the people who eat eggs are generally unhealthy, or is that type of lifestyle?
Gotcha. And this documentary didn't necessarily provide that background information of, like, this sample group of people also didn't exercise or also didn't do other certain lifestyles that may have been harmful.
Exactly. So what I'll say it in a nutshell. Studies were cherry-picked, meaning that they took little studies to prove their point. And this documentary did a lot of great things.
What did it do that was great?
So it brought up issues of animal cruelty.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Very important issue. It brought up the issue of the harms of factory farming and mass farming and how that's not good. The locations of where some of these farms are, the proximity of them to lower socioeconomic neighborhoods, and in general, how eating processed meats, red meats in large amounts like we are, and overeating in general, is bad for you. Mm-hmm. All great points. But now all of that benefit becomes washed away because you turn away a large percentage of the population by acting sensationalist. Mm-hmm. And you see that. I mean, you're in media, you're in radio. Mm-hmm. Look, I'm in YouTube, so I don't consider myself a media person, but I understand that in order to make medicine sound interesting, you often have to make a catchy headline.
Sure.
Hot doctor, for example, that's how I'm in front of you today, so I'm not going to pretend I don't take advantage of it, but the important is that you take advantage, but also explain what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And what this study did is it took a lot of these very complex subjects and it simplified them to a headline that was, unless you're eating vegan, if you're eating any amount of meat, you're going to get a disease, you're going to get cancer, you're going to put on weight, you're going to get diabetes. That's just not the case.
So you mentioned the processed meat thing, which is kind of how the whole documentary starts. And he says, they had the headline a couple years ago that eating processed meat leads to cancer.
Yep.
And then the documentary sort of just merges into meat in general. Do we know processed meat like deli meats and hot dogs and bacon and that sort of thing, how different are they from eating, for example, a steak?
Yep.
Is the detriment to your health the same thing? Do we know that information?
So I think one of the major points that they made in the documentary was they said that because the WHO organization, World Health Organization, said that eating processed meats like that is a level 1 carcinogen.
Right, smoking.
Like smoking.
Yeah.
So in their minds, it was just as bad as smoking. But that's not what the classification system actually means. It means that there's enough evidence to prove that eating these things in a large amount causes cancer. So it's proven.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that they're on the same level of that they cause cancer.
Okay.
And what we have to remember, and I've seen the arguments against this, people say, like, well, what does that mean? That means you want to give your kids some cancer, but not all cancer? We have to remember that just living and being alive and spending a number of years on this earth will raise the chance of you getting cancer, because it's just your genes. When they replicate and cells turn over, there's errors, and that's what causes cancer. Certainly environmental factors play a role, like eating meat, smoking, and all these things. But we have to understand what the actual risk is to you in reality. For example, if I told you, this is completely hypothetical, so don't quote me on this, if normally 1,000 people get cancer in New York, let's say in the United States in a year, and that makes your risk, let's say, 10%. But if you live in New York, where the pollution is higher, we know that there's more traffic, more congestion, the risk goes up to 10.5%.
Okay.
Does that discourage you from living in New York?
No.
For you, no, but maybe someone else says, oh man, that's a big factor. I don't want to have cancer so much to the point I'm going to move to the Midwest.
Okay.
Which may be rational because they believe that they made the choice to do that. But in order for me as a doctor to take the time out to counsel someone on that risk isn't worth it. Because there's so many other things that people are doing wrong that come into my office. I mean, they're not just eating processed meats. People are eating 4,000 calories a day. They're eating cupcakes by the dozens. They're eating cookies by the dozen. They're finishing Entenmann's boxes by...
Oh, so good.
But like, it's
But
great, but it's important to know what's
Yeah,
what.
yeah.
So if you come into my office and I educate you on these things, that's my job. And then what further my role becomes is figuring out how I can motivate you to make a lifestyle change.
Okay.
Because that's my goal. And a lot of people say, like, doctors don't know squat about nutrition, doctors don't learn anything
This
about it in
documentary
school.
said that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
very clearly. And I will agree to a point that doctors from the older generations did not know a lot about nutrition. Now, even in our recommendations, if you look on like how I should treat high blood pressure or how I should treat cholesterol, the first step is lifestyle modifications.
Okay.
So to group all doctors and say that we don't recommend lifestyle changes, it's baloney.
Okay.
Because we do. The reason why doctors are put in this idea that we always jump to medications first is because we often go to medications. But that's not because we didn't try the lifestyle modifications. It's because people don't follow them.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in my office, if you walk in and I say you're overweight, your blood pressure is high, your cholesterol is high, you need to do XXX, exercise, eat healthy, plant-based diet, whatever I tell you. The odds that you're going to follow it is somewhere floating around 10%.
Okay.
Does the blame fall solely on me as a doctor? Partially, sure. I could be doing something better. But it also falls upon the person and personal responsibility that you have to take control of your life. And look, those who take that responsibility, change their lifestyle, eat healthier, reduce the amount of red meats that they're eating, focus on a plant-based diet while having some dairy or chicken on the side, those people change their lives. And that's what I need to focus on, and that's what the medical community needs to focus on. Not ripping doctors for not trying, because we try. Things we fail, so we get discouraged, and we don't know what works. Like I was talking to a very famous doctor in the medical space on the phone about a possible TV show idea, so kids get excited. And the doctor said to me, quote unquote, very respected doctor, 30 years of practicing medicine, he said, quote unquote, patients don't change their lifestyle. Patients that are addicted to drugs don't get off drugs, and we don't know how to do it. And while I don't have such a pessimistic view of things, because I'm a young doctor, I'm very optimistic, I believe that there's a way to do this. That's why I tried doing something as crazy in my hospital as exercising with my patients. I literally did a study where doctors exercise with their patients to see if that was a way to get them going. Yeah. It worked. It's obviously not feasible for every place because not all doctors can go and exercise with their patients, but it's a theory. And that's where the research needs to go to figure out how to make these lifestyle changes. When you watch the documentary and you hear these things, that doctors don't care, what is your thought process? Do you believe the documentary? Do you think that doctors truly don't care? Or do you think that maybe they're not telling the truth? What's your...
I mean, when I was watching this documentary, so much information is thrown at you so quickly. I mean, he rapid fire yells statistics at you. And so I found myself getting really overwhelmed and forgetting that the viewer has to take some ownership of their lifestyle. Sure. And so when he was saying, doctors aren't trained in nutrition, I'm thinking to myself, well, that's just crap. Like, you doctors should be trained in nutrition. But what you're saying is accurate, that maybe that was true before, but not necessarily so now. And I also forgot that this is a good documentary because you forget that he has a perspective on the situation. No documentary is neutral. It always comes from a place, right? Like when Making a Murderer came out, we found out
we're
later,
getting into Making a Murderer. I love it. Okay.
We found out that a lot of key evidence was left out of the documentary because it would have swayed us in the opposite direction in terms of who we thought was at fault. And so I forgot that doctors are getting all of the blame in this and patients are not getting any. And we saw a lot of those patients. I wanted to talk to you about that too. Like, after 2 weeks of going on a plant-based diet, they were walking again and breathing again. Sure. And I wasn't sure how much of that was accurate and how much of that was, I hate to say it, like, were they playing up symptoms earlier to make that transition seem more crazy? But like 2 weeks to get off drugs felt like...
Look, it's a fair question and it's a fair thing to think about. So let's talk about this guy, Kip Anderson, and I forgot the name of the other director. Maybe someone can help us in the chat. You want to pop in. These guys.
Yeah.
A little disingenuous for my taste.
Okay.
I know that you have to sometimes use catchy headlines and flashy things to get people's attention and get people interested. That's fine. But when they say that they're going to be fair, and they say that they're not vegan before they start, but when we know from their other documentaries that they've made, Cowspiracy, and the people that were associated with this documentary, Leonardo DiCaprio, Joaquin Phoenix, these are diehard vegans. So to say that you were concerned about your health, or whatever quote he says, that he now is becoming vegan is disingenuous, because you're tricking the audience. It's unnecessary, because you can make such a great argument about all these things. You can talk about how eating red meat in large amounts or overeating calories leads to the worst things ever. But guess what? You know why they don't do that? And I'll tell you this because I try and sell TV show ideas. I try to make new YouTube videos. Because if they just talk about eating healthy, if they just talk about the basic statistics that everyone talks about, no one will give them money to do a documentary.
Gotcha. So it has to be this big, my life has changed because of this information I learned.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So, for example, I've been approached by some book publishing companies, and when I tell them my ideas about how people on the extreme ends of things are usually wrong, and that my ideas are somewhere in between, they say, look, unfortunately, that doesn't sell books.
Yeah.
So even if I am right and optimistic and correct and whatever positive spin you want to put on it, if it doesn't get attention because I'm so extreme in one direction or another, no one's going to hear it.
But that sucks, because we're trying to get information, and so the only information that we're getting is extreme information, which isn't accurate.
It's not accurate. And that's what's happening with news too. You have to watch two separate news stations to sort of figure out what the real deal is, because one side is very democratic, one side is very conservative.
And everything is breaking news?
Everything is breaking news.
There's no such thing as perpetual breaking news.
Yes.
It's impossible.
It's sad that we have to do that, but look, this is where we come in, and you and I, where we can tell stories in an animated way, a funny way. We can get on our banana phones and say what's up.
Hold on, I have to take this.
I wonder how many times we're going to do this.
Call later.
I'll text
Mom,
you later.
call me later. Sorry.
So we can be funny, we can get people's attention that way, but to lie and cherry pick data, it's unfair. Now, you asked a very good question about people that change their lives in 2 weeks by going vegan.
Yeah.
Look, another thing I'm going to make right off the bat. A vegan diet is a great diet. It's a healthy diet. There's not much wrong with it, especially if you supplement some of the things that you're missing when you're eating vegan, like B12 that it's often talked about, maybe the amino acid lysine that's missing in some of the vegan diets. But the thing is, it's not the only healthy diet.
Okay.
The only way you can say that eating vegan is the only healthy diet is if you're a firm believer that you cannot kill animals to eat.
Okay.
Which I have sort of a moral dilemma with.
Yeah.
In a sense that, not that I don't think animals have rights, I think that torturing animals is absolutely unnecessary. Farming on a mass scale, like the animal factory farms, horrible idea. The conditions that some of these animals are raised, awful.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I don't think we should eat animals. A lot of the arguments that I've heard from vegans is about animals being sentient beings and that they feel, so why should we hurt them? Mm-hmm. I think you can make that argument go even further and say plants are sentient beings. Because there's some plants that respond to the outside environment just like animals do. Maybe we haven't figured out yet that they have feelings too.
It's possible.
No, I mean, this is not a wild thought, because if you look at a Venus flytrap, it sits there and you think it's not moving, it's not understanding, but then you put a little fly in it and all of a sudden it starts changing its motion. Maybe something is going on there. So at what level do you decide what's a sentient being? And that's the reason why I don't eat Roxy, but I eat a cow. Because I've made the cutoff that a cow is a sentient being that I will eat to make my life continue, in a sense. And don't get me wrong, vegan, you can also go vegan and eat plants and do the same thing. But it comes down to preference, it comes down to cultural values. There's a lot of things at play here. And my biggest argument with vegans is, including with people that made this documentary, is that they try and force it upon you so hard that it makes you automatically turn off and label them as extremists and not pay attention. Which is the opposite of what people should do. They could have made this documentary where it would have been interesting, could have delivered a lot of good facts, again, about that eating vegetarian and a plant-based diet is healthy. They could have talked about how eating red meat in large amounts is bad for you, eating bacon and hot dogs and all these things every day is really bad for you. But instead of doing that, they went alternative, they went very extremist in order to get this documentary made and make some money. And now the large majority of people are turning it off. And that's unfortunate, because I want to help people. I believe in prevention. I believe that we can change lives through prevention. And most doctors do. So I'm a little upset about it, as you can tell.
No, it's okay. I'll say this for the documentary. It had some really good points that it made in between the hype. For example, I had no idea that that protein is from plants initially. They make the point that if you feel like you need to eat meat to get your protein, which is what I always thought you did, especially to get like a complete protein, you have to eat meat. But this documentary makes the point, these animals get the meat because they eat the plants. And that these huge animals like rhino, like elephants that are so giant, eat a plant-based diet. And so for people who are looking to maybe bulk up, who work in, more physical jobs, eating a vegan diet is actually really beneficial. So I appreciate it for those aspects, because I really did think that if you ate a vegan diet, you would eventually starve and die. I sort of thought that was the case, but it sounds like it's not.
Look, they presented the vegan diet in this crazy, non-fair way, but they also, like you said, they made good points. Yes, you can get most of your nutrients from going vegan. You can build muscles by going vegan. This is where it opens the conversation to future of medicine, the future of science. We don't know everything there is to know about nutrition. From now, the studies we've seen on going vegan is that it's a healthy diet. You can live a healthy life. It reduces the risks of some illnesses because you're eliminating a lot of foods that cause cancer, like bacon and hot dogs and all these things. But again, you can eliminate all those foods without going vegan. But also what is good is that, what's bad actually, is that we're omnivores. We've developed this way. This is speaking to the paleo people out there. We were born as prey hunting organisms. We hunted back in the day. We ate plants when we had nothing to hunt. So we're omnivores. We're able to digest both. And the reason why a gorilla, which is a huge animal, right, is able to eat plants and bulk up so large and stay that large is because their gut is slightly different than ours. Okay. The big reason why what we know now, and my God, this is such an evolving field, is because the bacteria that's in their stomach is able to take apart the vegetables a lot better and more efficiently than our intestines are. Okay. So they digest those things better than we do. Okay. So yes, that's true. But what we're learning now is, have you heard of the microbiome or like probiotics and all these things? Yeah. This is just the edge. Like anyone that's saying this is the answer to everything is premature. Okay. Why? Because what we're learning now is not the microbiome, it's microbiota.
Okay, can you explain what those things are to people who haven't heard about them?
Good. Thank God you're here. So microbiome means all the bacteria that lives inside your gut. There's bacteria that lives within your intestines that helps you digest certain things that your body can't digest. It's a symbiotic relationship. You can't live without bacteria. Bacteria can't live without you. You live in a happy relationship. Hopefully that's how married couples are. Not everybody.
Do you need a hug? Are you okay?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
So you need that bacteria to live. humans have different types of bacteria based on the foods they eat, so you can change your microbiome based on the types of foods you eat, all of that. But different species have different microbiomes, and that's why different species are able to eat different things. And what we're learning now, that's what we know. And now people are getting excited about that and this and that. But what the future of this thing is that it's not just limited to bacteria. There's viruses that live inside. That's what microbiota is. Microbiome is just bacteria. Microbiota is all of the life. So you have funguses that live inside your intestines. You have viruses that live there. You have bacteria. So it's all of these things that are living and creating this symbiotic relationship that affect whether or not you eat this banana and you might gain X number of calories, but I might eat this banana and gain a totally different amount of calories.
Gotcha.
So it's so individual. It's so based on what we've eaten in the past. It's so dependent on what our genetics are. It's hard to say this one thing works for everybody. It's unfair because you're putting everybody at a disadvantage and you're lumping everyone into one group. And I'm always the person that says you have to make the best decision with limited information. So what does that mean? That means we know eating vegetables is healthy. Maybe not for everybody, but in general it is, so that's why we recommend eating vegetables. We know that eating hot dogs every day of the week is bad for you. But we also know, and this is where the documentary really pisses me off, eating 1 egg a day is not the same for you as smoking. That's a joke. There's been studies that have disproven this, maybe 100 to 1. And even the study that they presented on their own website does not support the fact that eggs equal smoking. They can twist the information in a way that it does by manipulating the data and presenting it in a way that it's that. But whenever you get a study, you have to put it into context. Again, with the evidence thing, back to the crime scene.
Yeah.
Just because the footprint's there doesn't mean that person committed the crime. You need to look at everything, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I wish this documentary did better. What else? What other fun facts do you have written down? Because look, we made notes.
Yeah,
We're like
I have
super
so many
legit.
notes. Can we talk about cheese?
I love cheese.
I love cheese. I'm from Wisconsin.
Okay.
Cheese is my jam.
Okay. Oh my God, you're a cheesehead.
I walk if
Go Packers!
Go Pack! Oh.
Is Aaron Rodgers doing well this year?
I have no idea.
Me either. Okay. Go Aaron Rodgers.
Go Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
If I walk past a cheese platter, I get a little dose of happiness, and then I go into it.
Yep.
This documentary said that cheese is coagulated cow pus, is what it said. And I don't even know what that means. It broke my heart. I love cheese so much. And I don't know if I can live a life that doesn't involve bovine. I mean, I love goat cheese. I love, but I do love a good cow's milk cheese. And this documentary basically said there's no reason for us to eat milk or any bovine product. Talk to me about cheese.
When you say there's no reason to eat any bovine or cheese product, right? What does that mean? What does that mean? You don't have to eat it?
I think. Well,
do you have to eat anything?
No, this is true.
Oh wait, you have to eat something to live.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah.
But I don't have to eat anything specific. I mean, the documentary basically made the point, and I've heard this before, that cow's milk is meant to take a tiny little calf and bulk it up to 300, 500 pounds in a very short period of time. So why, as humans, would we need to ingest that?
Sure.
And it also said that a large percentage of the Earth's population is lactose intolerant. People of Asian descent being 95% lactose intolerant. Sure. So why do we need to eat it? So
we don't need to drink milk necessarily. This is where it's an important point to show again that thing that we're all individual. So what is right for the Japanese person that's lactose intolerant is not the same for the European person that grew up on milk from a generational standpoint. I'm talking about 20, 30 generations ago.
Yeah.
So again, it's individualized. Number 2, eating or drinking milk and feeding a cow. The argument, just to talk about that specific argument, where they say that it's supposed to make a baby calf gain 1 million pounds, right? But you just told me that huge animals are eating vegetables and becoming huge, right? Rhinos, elephants. So does that same argument hold true that I, as a human, should eat vegetables? I'll get huge too if it's clearly designed to make things huge.
Yeah.
So useless argument in my opinion. The thing that I would want to talk about dairy is that coagulated cow pus is complete nonsense and could not be more bullshit. Yes, I said bullshit.
It's a good band name, by the way.
Coagulated pus?
Coagulated cow pus.
That's not bad.
It's like a rock metal.
Yeah. Chris is digging it out. Chris with his super chat. By the way, I'm calling him out. He's donating to the super chat. And by the way, keep asking questions because Chris is here. He's moderating. He's throwing questions our way that you're asking. We want to know what you think. Okay, so back to the coagulated cow pus.
Yes.
Pus. What's pus? Pus is the medical definition of pus. It's bacteria, it's skin cells, it's dead bacteria, it's white blood cells, it's all these things all in one making this nasty thing. It's an amalgamation of sorts. I know you're a vocab girl.
Yeah, I am.
And when a cow gets an infection on its udder, that's a funny term I never thought I would say. I'm not even a vet. It's something called mastitis. It's very similar. Women get this when they're breastfeeding babies as well.
Okay.
It basically is bacteria, inflammation of the nipple.
Okay.
And when that happens, you get a rush of white blood cells, right? Farmers, and I've read this, are trained to look for this thing. And in fact, quality control on farmers try and limit the amount of mastitis, that infection that happens, to less than 2 out of 100 cows.
Okay.
And when they do occur, they have ways to catch this. The way they catch it is they do something called a somatic cell count.
Okay.
Somatic cells means the cells of your body, white blood cells, all of these things that your body produces. And those somatic cells are found in milk.
Okay.
Right? So for example, when a cow is healthy and does not have an infection, mastitis, a cow makes milk that has approximately 200,000 to 400,000 somatic cells in it.
Okay.
Okay? Now when a cow gets an infection, whether that's mastitis of the nipple or the udder, whatever the proper term is, or any other infection, that somatic cell rises drastically. That means the cow is fighting off an infection.
Okay.
And it goes above 500,000. The farmers catch this and they move the cow out of production and they don't use that milk.
Okay.
So we prevent this from happening.
All right.
On top of this, we pasteurize our milk. So that's why doctors don't recommend drinking non-pasteurized milk, because in case that some bacteria comes through, it gets killed by the heat in pasteurization. However, I'm just going to show you as an opportunity that you can really push things in whichever direction you choose to. People that are for non-pasteurized milk, and those people do exist, they have their own agenda and things that they push, they believe that you need the bacteria that the cows pass along and those white blood cells, that it's healthy. So they don't believe in pasteurizing milk.
Okay.
And they say that you need that bacteria. Vegan people and the people in this documentary, not all vegan people, just the ones that spoke about in this documentary, say that look how much bacteria is in there. So completely different point of view.
Yeah.
But they say that it should be pasteurized. So both people saying two things are healthy, presenting it in the way that they want, and who wins? Nobody. Because you're not presenting anything meaningful to the person that's doing it. The average person doesn't understand what somatic cells are. That's my job. That's what doctors are supposed to do. And the biggest thing that bothers me, I probably said this a lot about this documentary, is that, look, doctors go into school, 8 years of undergrad plus medical school, residency 3 to 5 years plus specialty. That's a lot of years of education. A lot of loans to take out. I have over $200,000 in loans, right? So that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now tell me, are you going into this field to help people, or are you going into this because you love self-abuse, or because you love making profits for the meat farmers of America? What do you think? Just like a rational question.
I would imagine you want to help people.
Right? Now, there's been a few documentaries like this about veganism. Cowspiracy, Forks Over Knives, this one, What the Health. Why is it the same few doctors are appearing on the same documentaries over and over again? Are these the only celebrity doctors that know what the deal between chronic disease and meat is? No. In fact, some of these doctors are smart people, and some of the stuff that they say is right. Like one of the doctors made a point that sugar doesn't cause diabetes. That's nonsense.
Really?
In a sense, because sugar alone doesn't cause diabetes. Meaning that if you eat within moderation sugar, you won't get diabetes, which is very true. But he doesn't present it that way.
It makes it sound
he makes it sound like if you eat fat and no sugar at all, you'll get diabetes. And that's not true. If you overeat fat, if you overeat calories, whatever the source is, you raise your risk of getting diabetes. That's what we know. So it's calories that matter. Okay. We don't quite know yet what the best diet is. And there was like a really good moment in the documentary where he went to the American Diabetes Association, did that interview, Ratner, with the Dr. Ratner guy.
Which was so delightfully awkward. Oh, it was so delightful. I love that kind of awkwardness because you're just like, he got so mad. I
feel bad because old school doctors aren't used to this kind of debate. And they're not used to taking the hypothetical seriously and all these things that the younger generation likes to do. So I thought it was unfair that he probably told the doctor that the interview was about something completely different.
Yeah.
Lied. So number one. Number two, this doctor, everything he said was right. It may have not come out right because he wasn't ready, but here's one of the things he said. He said that any diet works. Mm-hmm. And while to the average person that sounds crazy, what he was really trying to say is any diet that lowers your calories works in reducing diabetes and preventing diabetes. So yes, vegan diet works when you're eating low amount of calories. But guess what? If you're eating a vegan diet but drinking Coca-Cola 20 cans a day, guess what? Your risk of diabetes is just going to be as high as someone who eats meat.
Sure. That makes sense.
So any diet does work. What he's also right is that he doesn't have the proof that a vegan diet is definitely, without question, better than every other diet. Some studies exist, the EPIC trial, for all those people that are ready to attack me, the China study. Some studies do show that a vegan diet works, and it does work. But so does Atkins, so does Eco Atkins when talking about diabetes. And then you start going into the industries of these things. Who's supporting what? Who's supporting who? And that's another great point I think this documentary made.
Yeah, I mean, he goes into it and says, like, okay, I was trying to figure out why there was such a disparity between, the Diabetes Association and then what they're telling you to eat, which is in direct conflict with what this research says.
Yes.
And then he looks at the sponsors and sees that they're sponsored by the Meat Council or whatever. That was another thing. Or the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation is sponsored by Yoplait, and it says that...
Who, by the way, I do a lot of work with, so Susan G. Komen, shout out.
But it says that that full-fat yogurt can increase the risk of recurrence of breast cancer, but low-fat doesn't, that sort of thing. So can we talk a little bit about that sponsorship and that conflict of interest, maybe?
This is what one of the issues is of having a capitalistic society. Money makes the world go round, and I don't think it really is true here. It's true everywhere. You look at a country like I'm from, Russia. There's plenty of corruption. All this stuff exists there as well. There's no nation that's really safe from this kind of thing.
By the way, the fact that you just said Russia on a live stream, we're not being tapped.
No! Snowden, I'm sorry. What was I going to say? So...
Capitalism.
Yes. Money makes the world go round. I don't think it's right that the American Diabetes Association takes money from some of these industries. I think that's a good point this documentary made. I think that they should do a better job of finding funding elsewhere. I don't think it necessarily corrupts their thinking, but I think it can.
Yeah.
And just having that potential is enough for me to say you shouldn't do it. That's why, look, I do advertisements on my Instagram, I do advertisements on my YouTube channel, but I do advertisements for things that don't corrupt my ethical medical duty. So you won't see me going in and talking about the benefits of some medication unless there's real medical proof for it, because a doctor shouldn't be paid by a pharmaceutical company. That's the way that I view it. And they used to be.
I mean, I don't really know that relationship.
Yeah, so this is a really good thing to bring up here too. Recently there's been a new law. I mean, it's not that recent. It depends what you think of the whole scope of time is. But there's something called the Stark laws. And these laws prevent doctors from getting kickbacks from pharmaceutical company, vacations, because these things used to happen. It was incredible.
I know. So I didn't know that wasn't allowed anymore.
Yes, that's not allowed. Okay. Before, pharmaceutical companies used to bring pens with the logos, and like doctors had 1 billion pens. Now we can't even do that.
Really?
And look, I'm not saying that's a bad or good thing. I think it's a great thing. I think doctors shouldn't be in bed with pharmaceutical companies. Does that mean doctors shouldn't work for pharmaceutical companies? No, because that's how medicines are made, and we need medicines. So all those people are attacking the pharmaceutical industry. I understand where you're coming from, but you need medicine.
Yeah.
As much as you want to prevent things, there's people alive that need help. So, and as much as you're going to prevent things, genetics are still going to give people cancer, so we still need chemotherapy, we still need radiation. And I actually have a really funny experience with this. I never shared this with you. I did this thing called Stand Up to Cancer in the UK. Yeah. I'm still wearing the bracelet. And on the show, I told people that they can use food and exercise as their medicine. And I'm passionate about that. I believe in prevention. Does that mean I don't think radiation and chemotherapy don't have their place? No, they definitely do. So when I said that on television, I didn't preface it the way that I just did with you, saying that radiation and chemotherapy have a place. I just said that one line, and then they had to cut to commercial. The lawyers immediately ran up to me on this live show and said, Mike, can you just clarify that? Because what your message just said to people was, and this is me being a young doctor on television not knowing this, basically told people that don't use chemotherapy, don't use radiation, just eat healthy.
Yeah.
That's not the answer, folks. Should you eat healthy? Yes. But you should also listen to your doctors for the best advice possible. We did not slave through 10, 15 years of schooling to sell you things to make more money. It's not the case. There's a lot of ways for smart doctors to make money. We could have all gone into business. We could have opened up our own businesses. We're sharp. We can study. We learn things. There's no need for us to sell those things to you. Doesn't mean not all doctors are. Just how some policemen are corrupt, most of them aren't. So it's important that we take this view with a grain of salt. Go doctors.
There's always one person in every workplace, I'm sure you work with one, who's a total idiot and a bad seed, but that doesn't mean everybody in your office is a bad seed.
Look, the way I like to put it is, what do you call, and someone else said this, I'm not taking credit for it, what do you call the person on graduation that was the last place in his medical school?
What?
Doctor. Right? So you never really know. But that comes with a very big asterisk behind it. And that asterisk is, guess what? Just because I may not be good at taking tests doesn't mean I'm a good doctor, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the information for you is now on hand. It's available for you to look it up and figure out what the best plan is. You can make time to formulate your plan. But one of the biggest things that what we need to improve on, what we're lacking in medical schools, is communication. That's what this YouTube channel is. That's what this is. And I may not know everything there is to know about medicine. I may not know everything there is to know about each subject. But when I learn it and when I take the leaders of the industry's advice and read their recommendations, I can then translate it to you and digest it in a way that you'll understand.
Gotcha.
So maybe I'm not number one in remembering all these facts, but maybe I'm number one in explaining it. So you tell me who the better doctor is. Doctor that has the best grade point average but can't communicate to save their life?
Yeah.
Or the doctor that's last in their class but can communicate anything very simply? It's a tough question to answer. That's what comes back to the whole person approach. I'm a DO, Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine. We look at the whole person. My foundation, Limitless Tomorrow, looks at the whole person. We don't just give out scholarships based on a grade point average, because I think it's unfair. Getting a little sidetracked.
That's okay.
We have sort of a moderator here, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Yo.
Do we have any good questions that people have been asking? Because I don't want to neglect my community here.
There was a big question about, are there side effects from being vegan?
Okay.
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a good question. So we don't have all that information yet, but we do know a couple of things, and that if you don't supplement with B12 gets stored in your body and it lasts a really long time, so you won't have shortage of B12 right away. You can develop anemia because you don't have B12.
Okay.
So that can happen. We don't have the best study. This is what studies we do have, just so you understand what I'm working with, because my knowledge is not expert knowledge. It's looking at other experts and the research they've done and then using that to formulate my own thoughts. The research that we have done is comparing a person that's vegan and a person that eats like dog poop. And what we found is that going vegan is very healthy in comparison to eating dog poop.
Sure.
And that's great. So we know eating vegan is healthy. But we don't have really quality studies that show a person that eats a healthy plant-based diet, good number of calories, that don't overeat calories, very healthy, and compare that to veganism. It just doesn't exist yet. It might in the future, but it's very difficult to do some of these studies because a few things happen. Confounding, which is the thing that I told you before. People that eat eggs often eat bacon.
Sure.
So if you're testing people that eat meat versus people that are vegan, in general, vegans are healthier because they eat less. Number one, because they're more health conscious. And number two, because vegetables and healthy fats are more satisfying, satiating, so you don't eat as much as you do when you eat empty carbs and refined sugars.
Sure.
So they're healthier on that aspect alone. So when you compare someone that eats meat, you're comparing those people that overeat meat to people that don't eat any meat at all.
Okay.
Unfair comparison. So when someone says that there's a study done on veganism that shows that it's great, it's done not against a person like me who eats a different type of meat like fish in moderation, rarely eats bacon and hot dogs and all these things. It's done against a person that eats all of these things.
Okay.
They do try and reduce the confounding by taking smoking out of the equation, age, sex, all these things, but you can't take anything out. That's why these studies are hard to do. On top of it, a lot of these studies are questionnaire dependent.
So people are self-reporting.
Self-reporting.
which means
horrible way of doing studies. Unfortunately, one of the only ways we can at the moment.
Because your memory sucks, you may lie a little bit, you may try to make yourself look better.
Today's what, August 20th?
Is it? Oh my god.
Yeah, August 12th. Where were you, Bethany?
August 12th?
If she can't remember where she was, how is she going to remember what she ate? Or how many servings she ate?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a joke.
Yeah.
It's my self-reporting, the bias that occurs with it is insane. Look, I know it's the only way we can do it right now and we have to live off that, but the best things that these things are showing is correlation, not causation. Do you know the difference between the two?
Correlation is they are related to each other, and causation is one is directly responsible for the other?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wow. That's a great job.
Theater
on the
major.
Spot and everything.
Yeah.
Because just because two things happen and are correlated doesn't mean that they cause each other to happen.
Sure.
Very simply put. So, for example, if we more bananas have been being produced in the last 100 years, but also the rates of autism have gone up. So they're correlated because they both are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
But unlikely causation, right?
Yeah.
So whenever a study shows that there's some association or correlation, it doesn't mean that there's a causation. So if their correlation exists, maybe we need to do more studies. And those studies aren't amazing on their own. The best studies and the best level of evidence is something called a meta-analysis, which is a pool of a lot of studies. And this is just, I want to use this as an opportunity to show this guy Kip Anderson why he gets me mad.
Okay, he's the documentary filmmaker.
The documentary filmmaker. In the documentary, he talks about how the WHO made red meat and all these things carcinogens a level 1 carcinogen, right?
Yeah.
It sounds really bad. And he says that 800 studies were used. No, sir. 800 studies were not used. So a meta-analysis combines studies, and the way it does it, it searches and it tries to find studies that match its idea. And the WHO found 800 studies, but they found that 793 of them were poo-poo. They used 7 to make, because those are the best 7 studies.
So they initially gathered 800 studies, but got rid of
793.
See, that is what's
the way you
frustrating.
present that information can allow you to set your own agenda. And a lot of these people in this documentary, the doctors included, have an agenda.
Yeah.
Because they believe veganism is the answer. And that's fine. But you have to state that outright. And if you look at even when they say that the American Diabetes Association, the American Heart Association is sponsored by animals, they must be flawed. Or if a study is sponsored by the dairy industry, it must be flawed. Well, guess what? All your studies are done by this Neil Bernard guy, Dr. Geiger, are the studies done by them. So if I'm taking your point saying that these studies are done by this industry, I shouldn't believe them. Your studies are done by your industry.
Okay, so how are we supposed to look at something like this and know what to think? What is the best way to do your own research? Because, for example, I was looking at different people's blogs and just seeing like what their responses were to this.
Yes,
and
this is really good. She has notes, guys.
I do. So I came upon Rob Wolf, this guy named Rob Wolf.
Okay.
I saw that you had him in your notes too. And I was reading through his information, and then I realized, well, he comes from a paleo background, and he is promoting paleo, which is eating the way that we used to eat when we were not quote unquote civilized. So a lot of meat, a lot of nuts, a lot of fat, a lot of whatever. So I don't know if where he is coming from. It isn't skewed either. So when you're sitting down, you watch something like this and you get mad, how do you go about doing research to kind of parse apart what you can trust? So
this field is so complex. It's likely that the average person can never do their own research. Because unless they spend a ridiculous amount of hours, which is our job as doctors. Yeah. And that's why you need to have a doctor you can trust to have this sort of conversation. And what you can do is you can skim through Wolf's article, whoever's article, Neil Bernard's articles, and pick out a few facts that stand out to you like you did with me. And look, you're asking me these questions and I'm giving you answers. Yeah. I don't have any stake, no American Diabetes Association, no beef stake. My job is to present the most unbiased facts. And the person that you should trust the most, and this is even a book idea of mine, is that to know that the doctor who is so sure of themselves beyond the slightest bit of doubt is usually wrong. Why? Because science changes, medicine changes, nutrition changes, we figure out new things all the time, we've contradicted ourselves hundreds of times in the past history. So any doctor that tells you this is the absolute thing, you have to eliminate this, you have to, it's usually wrong. That's the bottom line. So when the American Diabetes Association, the American Cancer Society tells you that you should not stop eating hot dogs, but you should very much limit it to once a month or once a week, whatever their recommendation is, it's not because they don't care about your health. It's because the research yet, the good quality research, doesn't exist to prove it one way or another. Does that mean you as a person shouldn't eliminate it from your diet? No. If you believe that you want to have the lowest possible cancer risk, you don't care about eating hot dogs, by all means eliminate them. By all means. But the thing is, that's a personal choice. Just how if you don't want to live in New York and be exposed to pollution, you should leave. Because that's your choice.
Yeah.
But if you have that question to your doctor, you should have a specific question. Doctor, is going vegan healthy? My answer is yes. Does that mean I recommend it for all my patients? No. Because some data supports it, and then some data is not that exciting. So this is a way that you could present data, and again, skew everything for everybody. Yeah. I had a really good number written down to make a good point. So this is how you could make a sensational headline. Now, if I told you eating meats 7 times a week, red meats, raises your risk of colon cancer by 20%. Sounds scary.
Terrifying.
Terrifying. Scares me.
Yeah.
Now, what that 20% truly means is that's the relative risk, right?
Explain that.
Exactly. So there's relative risk and there's absolute risk. Relative risk, there is a 20% bump in colon cancer. But there exists a risk of getting colon cancer without eating meat. That risk is 5 out of 100. And again, these numbers don't mean anything. We're just using them as an example. 5 of 100, let's say. That's 20%. That's 5%, right? So 5% out of 100, right? 5 out of 100, 5%. Now the risk, if you eat red meat, your colon cancer goes up to 6 out of 100. 1 divided by 5, because it goes up by 1%, is 20.
Yeah.
So going from 5% risk to 6% risk is a 20% bump. That's true. But the absolute risk went from 5% to 6%, it was a 1% bump.
That just feels like shiesty mathematics.
It's not shiesty, it's true, but you have to put it into perspective. And a lot of people talk about this. Even I read the Wolf Guy talks about that people present information this way. And look, I'm not against it. It's a good way to get someone's attention. But then you have to explain that that's what you're doing, because then it's unfair. It sounds scary to say a 20% bump in whatever you're talking about. But if you say 1%, it's also not that exciting. So say 20, but explain that there still exists a risk before the meat was even introduced.
Okay.
So that's what the thing is. It's not like if you didn't eat meat, you had no risk.
Right.
You still had a baseline risk because the genetics plays a huge role. That's where the future of this thing is. Genetics, microbiota, all that stuff. Chris, you look fidgety. Tell me. Okay.
Is there people are asking, like, red meat, how much is okay? If you want to have red meat in your diet, if that's on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, what is the right amount or the safe amount of red meat?
Yeah.
So, again, this can be answered in one way. It could be answered in an opinion form, or it could be answered in a research form, in a medical form. So, opinion form, you can say that because red meat, not in moderation, is a level 1 carcinogen, I want to eliminate it totally, and I want no extra risk of cancer by eating meat. I have nothing wrong with that. Okay. That's your choice, because you want to eliminate your risk. There exists no study to say eating 1 piece of red meat per day is healthy, 2 pieces per day. Moderation means that you don't eat it all the time. So all of your meals can be considered red meat. No study was done to find out how much red meat actually triggers this risk of colon cancer.
So we have
no idea. We don't have any idea.
Okay.
We know that it's dependent on amounts for sure, just how the amount you smoke directly correlates to your risks of certain cancers. The same thing exists with colon cancer and meat. So there is no answer. But this comes back to something I like to call common sense. You know that eating it not in moderation all the time, all meals, all the day, gives you a higher risk of getting cancer. So eat it once a day. Eat it once every other day. Eat it once a week. And you'll have some risk of cancer, which existed anyway, but it'll be a negligible bump. And the reason why some people will get mad at me for downplaying that, they'll say, but how can you say that a little bit of cancer is okay? And they're quick to jump on me. Why? Because most people, like a huge majority, do things that are so unhealthy to their lives outside of the small risk of eating meat once a day or once a week, that I can make a way bigger impact on their health because I am limited in my time, I'm limited in my influence to make a change in their life. So if I can get someone to, if I have a choice between making someone become not sedentary and exercise or make them eat meat once a week instead of once a day, my area that I'm going to go is to exercise because that's the better impact that I can make upon their lives. And almost every person that walks through my door, the biggest impact I can make on their lives is rarely how many days a week they eat meat.
Gotcha. It's like my friend who yells at me for, what did he yell at me for? He yelled at me for eating something. I think it was like a chicken breast as he lit a cigarette. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
He's like a chain smoker.
Look.
So he's like, you gotta put, you can only put good things into your body.
Yeah, look,
so
contradiction, and again, I'm not even mad at that. what I want that to be an example of is that's a choice. No one should be able to tell you how to live. Yes, you shouldn't torture animals uselessly because it's unnecessary. Mm-hmm. You can eat meat and you can eat it sensibly. You can eat plants and eat them sensibly. You don't have to go to an extreme, but you just have to know what you're doing is for a reason. So if a patient comes into my office, I tell them everything there is to know about smoking. I know about smoking, all the risks, this, that. It's like, doc, I know, but I'm going to have a bad quality of life if I don't smoke. That's it. That I can try other interventions. I could really try and sell them on things. But if they don't want to, they don't want to.
Yeah, they're not going to change.
That person may not want to change, and that's not my responsibility to try and force that upon them after, of course, trying a few times. But then also, if you talk about things like smoking and comparing it to, let's say, eating eggs, right, as that example, I am never going to try and force someone to stop eating eggs because eggs carry benefits. There's nutrients in eggs that are healthy. There's vitamins in eggs. There's things that are good in eggs. So when I discourage smoking, it's because there's no benefit to smoking, right?
Yeah.
Like if there exists a benefit, it's like such a small benefit, it's useless.
Yeah.
And the horrible effects so much outweigh the benefits, if there are any. And eating an egg, there's a lot of benefits to eating eggs, but there's also some risks if you eat them in high amounts. My videographer, who's not here today, shout out Dan Owens, eats something like 40 eggs a week. Dan, I'm going to go ahead and put it on record and put you on blast to say that eating 40 eggs a week is no good. But if he knows the risks and he understands that the risks exist and he wants to eat eggs because he believes that's the only way for him to build muscle and he wants to look good in the gym, Dan, by all means, eat your eggs.
That's like Gaston in Beauty and the Beast, where he eats like 5 dozen eggs every morning to help him stay large.
Yeah, it's making your own choices. Okay, I feel like we beat the horse to death. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say or anything exciting. No, I think this bottom line is this documentary was a missed opportunity. Yeah. It could have been a way to bring people together, show the benefits of veganism, show that animals have rights too, and look at all the horrible things that are happening with some of these animal factory farms.
Yeah, the whole situation in North Carolina we didn't even get to. It's like a human rights situation.
There's so many things happening that they could have touched upon, and instead they try to create this cult thing where vegans hate meat eaters and the only way you can live healthy is veganism. It's not true. So bottom line, eat a plant-based diet. Best recommendation I can give you from the logical sense. Eat a plant-based diet. Enjoy your chicken every now and then. Enjoy some red meat sprinkled in. Try and avoid hot dogs as much as you can, bacon, processed meats. But if you're at a summer barbecue once a season, don't let anyone tell you that eating a hot dog is going to destroy your health. Because that means that if someone's smoking next to you, you should sprint away because they're killing you. Come on. Moderation. Be smart here, and I use the term moderation lightly. Don't quote me on that. I just don't be around people that smoke generally. Yeah. But if someone's smoking around you for 5 seconds, you don't have to sprint. Okay. That's where logic comes into play, dose-dependent theory and all that. Okay. So that's where my take is on veganism. I hope that explains it all to you. If you have any questions, leave comments on the video. That's going to stay up down below. I'm gonna try my best to answer all of them. I know this is not a complete video, right? Like I didn't answer all of your questions. Right. For God's sakes, Bethany came here with a notebook. She came here with a notebook. She's studious.
That's how confused I am. But this really did help because I was not even sure how much I could believe of it. Yeah. But it sounds like there's a lot that you can believe, and veganism. It just sounds to me, I think, like if you choose to go vegan, you just have to be really aware of making sure you get everything you need.
Yes.
versus if you eat a meat-based diet, it's probably a little bit easier to get everything you need. But that doesn't mean that if you're a vegan, you're going to waste away to nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It just means that there's 2 points to this argument. The documentary did not show both points, which makes it a poop documentary in my opinion. Because if you're not going to talk about both sides, you're essentially wasting people's time and you're just trying to make money for yourself. So down on that sense, but in a sense, this is how some people think of bad figures in general in our lives, that they create so much hatred and so much controversy that because they do that, they allow people like us to talk about it, to give you the right information. You're excited to learn about it, and it reignited your passion for health. So in that sense, documentary did a great job.
We like that.
But not in a great way. You could have done it better. You could have used a hot doctor in your documentary. People would have watched. You could have given a fair shake to meats. Okay.
Okay.
Now that we talked about veganism, Bethany here started a fantastic new web series called Labeled.
Yes.
Which has a similar structure to a show I really enjoy called Veep. I don't know if you guys I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
Yes.
But as soon as I saw this thing, I fell in love. You can watch it. We have the link in the description. It'll stay there.
Yep. You can go to labelledseries.com, which is easy or
the link, whichever way you prefer.
Yeah.
I found it very funny. I like this type of humor.
Yeah.
It's like very Veep, very Office-like. But tell me, you're on the air every day. She's on the biggest morning talk show in the United States, guys, right? I don't want to be misfacting here.
No, I think that's accurate.
It's syndicated all across the U.S. Z100, Elvis Duran, and The Morning Show.
Yep, you can go to elvisduran.com to find out where
She'll be on tomorrow morning at 5 a.m.?
6 a.m.
6 a.m.
Eastern time. Yeah.
So you can listen. But you're doing that.
Yeah.
Your plate is full. You're doing other things, other projects. How did you get involved with Labeled?
So Labeled is a passion project between myself and my producing partner, John Sosis, who works at a record label right now in New York.
Okay.
And the thing that you see about musicians and the record industry is it always looks really glamorous.
Okay.
Like you see shows like Empire, and it's all money, and it's, the flashy life of these artists. But what you don't see is the people behind the scenes who are making these artist careers happen. And a lot of times they're very low-level employees. Sometimes they're interns. And the thing with musicians is that it's the only artistic profession where they have full control over the entire vision. So whereas like an actor or actress, they have to go off of someone else's script. They're not in charge of the set. They're not in charge of the directing usually. But with musicians, they can control the cover art. They can control the name of their tour and everything about it and the songs. So a lot of times their choices are terrible, but the people at the record company have to go along with it anyway. So the series is called Labeled, and it is about these lower level employees at a fictional, huge record label. And they're all just scrambling to make these artists' visions come to life and trying to save their careers at the same time.
So essentially what you're doing is you're trying to give credit to the people that are doing stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like interns in hospitals, like
Yes.
residents. So there's a lot of crossover here, guys.
Yeah,
because the hospital doesn't move without residents, and
Yes.
no one really talks about them except maybe Grey's Anatomy.
Right, exactly.
But that's what your show's about.
That's what
it's
the show's about.
Not necessarily the little people, but the people behind the scenes who are truly bigger than what they may seem.
Yeah, pretty
Okay,
much. Like
so
for example,
that makes sense.
do you guys remember a few years ago when CeeLo tweeted out something really offensive about sexual assault?
Yeah, I just remember his one song. But
He tweeted out something really offensive about sexual assault, and everybody at his record label had to scramble to try to fix it and put together a press statement and try to save CeeLo's career.
See, that's unfair.
From one drunk tweet, right? So that's what this is about, is this pop star does something really dumb, and then everybody has to try to figure out how to save their lives.
Which is life.
Which is,
It's really
the
showing
unseen
you
people.
the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Chris, who's sitting here and reading your tweets and telling us that we're way over our time.
Way over our time.
And he's cracking his whip, but we don't care. Sorry, Chris.
So please, I would love it if you would watch it. It's called Labeled. It's at labelledseries.com, or you can just click the link. Thank you, Mike, for putting that up.
it's real.
And,
look,
we're proud of it.
They had. You don't have the GoFundMe thing going anymore.
Not anymore, but we're
that's a shame.
working on it because
maybe you could do it again.
Us.
No, I was gonna say because I was so excited that they did a GoFundMe. I was like, we need to contribute to this because it's such a good project. Like, I'm not just saying this for this YouTube. I've been sort of behind the scenes excited about it.
Yeah.
From day one. Like when they send their episodes out, I'm the first view and
Yeah.
on the first comment.
You're very supportive, and we love that.
Well,
We're trying to get this out, and
look,
more
we
people
support
see it.
talent. I support talent, and I think that's what's gonna save our generation. Wow, I really just said that.
It's gonna save the generation.
Well, no, because you have all these extreme point of views and these things that are confusing people.
Yeah.
The people that are telling the truth, that are showing the behind the scenes, that are talking about what's behind the scenes in the studies, that are doing it in a fun way, in a unique way, in a new format, like all of this right now that's happening, are the people that are going to really educate.
Yeah.
And they're going to make it fun and interesting and let you learn what's going on in life.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
look, thank you so much for waking up with us. You probably said that before, on a Sunday morning, or going to sleep with us, depending on what coast of the world you are, because we are worldwide.
Oh, hello.
And I hope you learned something. I know I can't touch on everything within the hour, and Bethany can't share all her concerns about coagulated pus within the hour.
I'm still gonna eat it.
Yeah.
Cheese is delicious.
Cheese is so good.
It's the best.
so good.
Oh
I mean,
my god.
what's your favorite cheese?
I like a good cheddar, but I also like a hard
Oh, you like the
Parmesan.
smelly stuff.
I like the smelly. I like a Parmesan, like a crusty, hard Parmesan.
You know, the more it smells, the more coagulated pus there is.
Oh, God.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm
You
so
see,
eating
though,
it.
I could just say that and she'll buy it. So you really have to trust your doctor.
It's true.
I love Munster cheese.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
classic.
Classic.
Yeah.
It's like soft, but also hard.
Yeah.
That sounded weird.
Mhm.
Sorry.
It's
I'm
like-
sorry for that. I'm sorry.
We can't end on an awkward
No, we
note.
can't.
Say something else.
No, I'm going to say something interesting from my notes. I don't know what I'm going to say, but oh, let me read your comments. Let me see if anyone said anything interesting here. To be honest, this shows the effect of casein. I don't know what that quote is referring to. Is there anything we missed, Chris? Chris, give us some guidance. What did we touch on everything, or are we good?
Yeah, I think you guys are good. We hit all the big points.
Okay. I think the only, like I said, the only point I feel like we didn't
We can
hit
go for hours.
was the situation in North Carolina where a lot of people are suffering health effects because of this mass farming that's going on like across the field from them, and they have generations of health issues going
You're
on.
right.
So if nothing else, for me personally, I'm definitely going to be going vegetarian, if not vegan,
Oh, wow. Okay.
because of the human
Just that.
rights issue.
Look, I support
And
it.
I take that very, very seriously.
No, that's good stuff. Completely agree with you on that. The one thing that I can't let this show finish without saying is shout out to Susan G. Komen, because I may be doing the Race for the Cure in Central Park
That's
in
great.
the coming months, so that's
That's awesome.
exciting. And everything this documentary said about them is complete nonsense. They are the best with presenting the best quality of evidence to people as it comes out. And the thing with dairy, their low-fat dairy especially, has no link to breast cancer. The most recent studies and the meta-analysis, which is the combination of all studies, have proven that. So get rid of that nonsense. That doesn't mean you should start drinking milk like a baby cow in huge amounts. But if you have some milk in your coffee, it's not the end of the world. Everyone needs to calm down. Almond milk is great, so mix it up. Have some variety in your life. Variety is the spice of life. And then the one last point that I wanted to make, I don't want to forget this, is that going back to the thing that we aren't experts,
Yeah.
meaning that doctors that are too sure of themselves are usually wrong. This is something that I'm going to be talking about in the future. I may or may not have a TED Talk coming up in November.
Are you going to be
Exciting
wearing
stuff.
like a pop star headphone, like
Yes.
microphone around your
Yes.
ears? Oh, I'm
Yes.
so excited.
Like Sandberg.
That's so cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So of that, you're going to be hearing being okay with not knowing or knowing what we don't know is almost stronger than thinking you know everything.
Yep.
So the doctors that tell you what information is lacking are sort of more worthwhile and more relevant than doctors that tell you that they think they know everything.
Because if you think you know everything, you've closed your cup.
Yep,
and
you're
can't
done.
Even fill anything
Yes.
else in there.
So approach things with an open mind, ask good questions, pose them to your doctor. If your doctor doesn't answer them appropriately, meaning that he strays one side to extreme too hard, point that out. If you can't have a good conversation, switch doctors. If you want to visit me, Overlook Medical Center, you got my YouTube channel right here. Visit me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Dr. Mike, easy Google. Bethany is either Miss Bethany Watson or Radio Bethany.
Radio Bethany on Twitter.
You can find us everywhere. Thank you so much for listening. We'll chat later with you on our banana phones and eat our bananas.
I
Thank
have
you.
to take a call.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching, guys.
Thank
This
you.
is the end of our first live stream. We will have many more of these to come. I hope you're excited.
Yay!
Okay. figure out how to end it. We have to go here.
Now we're just looking.